is NBC Palm Springs.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Olivia Sandusky. Topping our news tonight, day 2 of the El Dorado fire. It's burning near Yucaipa, and so far 3,010 acres have burned. The fire is 5% contained. It broke out around 10 o'clock yesterday morning and exploded from just a couple of acres to more than 1,000 within a few hours. Our Nico Payne has the latest from Yucaipa.
Yes, it was a tense scene watching first responders race in and out of these neighborhoods, along with people pulling trailers, rushing to bring their belongings and animals to safety.
Mandatory evacuation, please leave.
My son-in-law they've got all their pictures and important papers, and the boys are getting the things that are important to them. And, they're animals. So that's about it.
As the El Dorado fire started to spread Sunday afternoon, so did evacuation orders. Communities that had to be evacuated Saturday included Forest Falls, Forest Home, and Oak Glen. We are currently in Yucaipa, and they just issued a mandatory evacuation for this area. As you can see, the fire appears to be moving this direction.
First thing this morning, it was up on the ridge, much higher up. But it seems to have exploded. It's come a lot further down, and the wind has changed direction totally.
Something this family has experienced before.
My husband and I live in Highland, and several years ago we had a bad fire and we had to evacuate it, and it burned houses by our house. So I've been through this before.
Beck also had some advice to people who may be debating on whether to evacuate.
I think they should evacuate and always be prepared, have everything where you know where it is that you want to take, and just be prepared, because you never know.
And we do want to point out that people should stay away from these fire scenes, as officials had a tough time getting in and out of these neighborhoods when people decided to pull over and snap a photo. It also creates havoc for people trying to evacuate these neighborhoods. Just something for you to keep in mind. Reporting for NBC Palm Springs, I'm Nico Payne.
All right, thank you, Nico. And fire officials have actually just updated the numbers on the El Dorado fire. It totals now more than 7,000 acres burned, but still remains at 5% contained. We'll move over from south up to central California to the Creek Fire. That has exploded in size and has burned 45,500 acres. That is still 0% contained. 2 counties have evacuation orders in place. The wildfire is spreading quickly in the Sierra National Forest, where the Air National Guard sent in helicopters to rescue more than 200 people trapped at the Mammoth Pool Campground. Britt Conway has more on that rescue.
Just keep going. A narrow escape. Campers in California try to outrun a fast-moving wildfire, quickly realizing the only road out of danger is completely surrounded by flames.
Oh my God, we made it.
All right.
They weren't the only ones who barely escaped the Creek Fire. Officials say at least 224 campers in Mammoth Pool Reservoir were trapped and had to be rescued, airlifted out to safety.
I think if we had stayed just 10 minutes more, we might not have been so lucky. We did run into a ranger. She was able to lead us up to the point of that spot fire. And it was actually per her instruction that we drove through that fire.
The Creek Fire burning in the Sierra National Forest north of Fresno injured about 20 evacuees. Authorities say that fire broke out Friday, then exploded in size, growing to 36,000 acres in just one day.
We do believe that there's still other people out in the wilderness. We'll be continuing those rescue operations to go out and try to find them and get them to safety.
Right now, more than 70 wildfires are raging across a number of states with no relief in sight. Meteorologists say the extreme weather conditions in many parts of the West are raising concerns that more fires may break out.
We could see temperatures well above the century mark, no rainfall, dry conditions. That is just fuel to ignite more fires.
I'm Britt Conway reporting.
One of the reasons we're seeing so many fires up and down the state, California is experiencing a record-breaking heat wave. You've probably felt it outside. Long-standing high temperatures are being expected to be shattered across the state this weekend. Excessive heat warnings are in effect throughout Southern California. That lasts until Monday night. Imperial Irrigation District is implementing temporary power outages amid the heat wave. The emergency action is referred to as load shedding. It reduces the overall load on the electric system. Customers are advised to follow certain measures to reduce strain on the power grid. They recommend turning off all unnecessary lights, keeping your AC at 78 degrees or higher, and not using appliances during peak hours. Got a live look now from our Agua Caliente casino cam. You can see it there, the fire burning out on the hillside, the smoke up in the air. We did set several new records across the valley and Southern California. It was 120 degrees in Palm Springs, shattering the 1986 record on this date of 114. It was also 117 in Thermal. That breaks the 2008 record of 115. Indio tied its 2008 record of 116. It was 104 up in Idlewild, extremely hot for people living up in those mountains, most without air conditioning. 87 in Big Bear, 110 in Fullerton, 105 in Santa Ana, 117 in Ontario, and the list goes on and on. New records. And in Los Angeles County, Woodland Hills, they had an all-time heat record. For LA County, 121 degrees. Hot, 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 no matter where you go in Southern California. We'll check in with our NBC Palm Springs Chief Meteorologist Mike Everett to take a look at those temperatures.
Well, this Labor Day weekend has been laborious indeed, with record-shattering heat all the way across Southern California, including here in the Coachella Valley. There's some good news. We are halfway through. It's going to be hot again on Labor Day, but then tracking some more meaningful changes. Looks like we're going to be in record territory again on Monday. Worse before it gets better. So yeah, warm again on Monday. Okay, we can call that hot when you're back in the 120 range, but we're tracking some big changes as we go towards the middle of next week. They're going to take those temperatures down and help to regulate us. In the short term, though, we've got excessive heat warnings for literally everyone in Southern California, even out towards the coast as well. Those should be allowed to expire this evening for the folks along the coast. We will stay under that excessive heat warning for one more night. Monday at 8 p.m. is when we're expecting that to be allowed to expire here locally. Here's what we're tracking as we go towards Monday. That ridge of high pressure almost perfectly on top of us. That is helping with the firefighting effort. In fact, when you've got it right on top of you, that makes the winds are relatively still. As this moves away from us, though, we will track some winds that will pick up. In fact, could be tracking a mild Santa Ana wind event. It's going to dry things out even more, but it's going to fix those numbers and take us out of the 110s and low 120s. Next 3 days brought to you by Comfort Air helps tell that story. 120 on Labor Day becomes 112 on Tuesday, and Wednesday, delightfully below average in those overnights back in the 70s. I'll tell you the whole story coming up.
Now on to the latest COVID-19 numbers for Riverside County and the entire Coachella Valley. Remember, the county doesn't update these numbers on weekends, so these are from Friday. Nearly 54,000 cases in Riverside County, 13,000 of those from the Coachella Valley. Over 1,000 deaths county-wide, 300 of those from our valley. And here are some tips on how to stay safe this weekend if you plan to travel amid the pandemic. Experts say if you are traveling to another area, it's important to check local requirements and restrictions. Some states and cities require the use of face masks, while others require travelers to quarantine for up to 14 days. If you plan on driving, make as few stops as possible. They also recommend always keeping those handy disinfectant wipes and hand sanitizer when you have to stop to get gas. TSA has announced some new security measures for travelers this Labor Day weekend. There'll be less or no contact with TSA agents when checking IDs and boarding passes. Actually, passengers will scan their own passes and IDs. Masks are encouraged, but you will have to remove them temporarily so agents can confirm your identity. And passengers are now allowed to bring a 12-ounce bottle of hand sanitizer in your carry-on luggage. As the United States heads into this Labor Day weekend further and further, the leading model estimates the COVID-19 death toll will be more than 410,000 by January. That more than doubles our current number. Experts behind the statistics say mask wearing could save more than 120,000 lives. COVID-19 hospitalizations dropped to a new low in New York. Good news there. Governor Andrew Cuomo announced Sunday that hospitalizations are the lowest they've been since March 16th, with 410 people currently in the hospital. He also says less than 1% of Saturday's COVID-19 tests came back positive. The rate has remained below 1% for the past 30 days. Data from early stage trials shows that Russia's coronavirus vaccine appears to have produced an immune response in all of the participants. The scientists say the response occurred within 21 days. Now, the most common side effects were pain at the injection site, headache, and a lack of energy, but those were all considered to be mild. The Russian government approved the vaccine for domestic use last month before any data was published.
Coronavirus coverage brought to you by East Valley COVID-19 testing site, serving residents of eastern Coachella Valley.
A La Quinta family is celebrating tonight after their daughter was found safe. They say 23-year-old Taylor Lipman went missing on September 2nd. Her car was found in San Ysidro with the keys still inside. Taylor is home from Florida State due to COVID-19. We spoke to her mother earlier today, who told us her behavior had been a little distant and off the week before she disappeared. She told us she was unsure why she would have been at the border.
I have no idea. It's not my daughter. My daughter's this far away from a neuroscience degree. We talked every day. We texted all day long. She was a high school cheerleader at La Quinta High School. Just a sweet girl. Everyone loved her. I'm falling apart.
We don't have the details on where exactly Taylor was found, but the San Diego police did contact Taylor's mother around 6:30 tonight to inform her with the good news that Taylor was safe. We've learned from former Indian Wells City Council that their former member Bill Powers has died. He served from 2008 to 2012. Mr. Powers also served on the boards for many local organizations. He's survived by his wife, 2 children, and 5 grandchildren. Bill Powers was 79 years old. Coming up after the break, Californians seek out cooler weather amid the pandemic. We'll take a look at some of those crowds gathered at local beaches. Welcome back. We're taking a live look now from our Agua Caliente casino camera in Rancho Mirage. You can see the red glow there in the mountains to our west where the El Dorado fire is burning more than 7,000 acres so far. And we've just learned the cause. This just into our newsroom. It was started by a device used in a gender reveal party. They say that device had a smoking quality, which of course is very dangerous during this weekend. We're seeing dry temperatures, dry hillsides, but we have learned from officials a gender reveal party device is what has caused 7,000 acres to burn throughout the area. Coronavirus concerns did not stop crowds from visiting California beaches over Labor Day weekend. This was the turnout in Los Angeles County on Saturday. Parking lots there and at San Diego and Orange County beaches were filled to capacity. LA County reported 1,196 new cases of COVID-19, as well as 24 deaths on Saturday. Health officials continue to urge residents to celebrate the Labor Day holiday safely and without large parties or gatherings. Tom Foreman has more.
Brace yourself for more super spreader events. That's the warning from health officials who fear with millions traveling over the Labor Day holiday, the pandemic could spike just as we enter fall when the flu and other illnesses may come into play.
We use Labor Day as a way to take the day off, but unfortunately the virus doesn't.
We don't want to go into that with another surge that we have to turn around again. So it really is an important weekend.
Infections shot up in some places after Memorial Day and the 4th of July, too, despite warnings against big social gatherings. Like that motorcycle rally in South Dakota, which produced dozens of cases, private parties in many places, and numerous family events, like the wedding reception earlier this year that left a New Jersey woman and 3 of her children dead. For all that, President Trump keeps mocking Joe Biden for wearing a mask.
Did you ever see a man that likes a mask as much as him?
Still, health experts say, imagine an outdoor barbecue. The medical journal BMJ created this chart showing if you attend an event like that for a short time with a mask, your risk could be relatively low, depending on whether people are silent, talking, or shouting and singing. Stay longer, it gets worse. Take off your mask a while, worse still. And without a mask for a long time, the risk explodes, especially if the party moves indoors. So images like these are raising alarm bells. Hundreds of students at Iowa State seemingly ignoring safety precautions.
Are you guys concerned about coronavirus at all or no?
No, not really.
No, not really.
I personally think it's a hoax.
Really?
Uh-huh.
I don't think it's a hoax, but I think that if I were to get it, I'd survive.
That is the attitude driving yet another warning this holiday from health experts watching college students on campuses everywhere.
Putting them on airplanes and sending them home to their parents doesn't make sense.
If people listen, the reward could be huge. A new projection from the University of Washington says with universal masking, the U.S. could see 300,000 deaths by the end of the year. But if restrictions are eased too soon, that number could be doubled by the New Year's holiday. Tom Foreman, CNN, Washington.
Now, this is traditionally a big weekend for restaurants here in the Coachella Valley and, of course, in Palm Springs. And just in time for the weekend, city officials approved expanding tables, chairs, and awnings onto Palm Canyon Drive that they recently shut down. We spoke to owners banking on visitors coming out here for the holiday weekend. The Coachella Valley is feeling the effects of triple-digit temperatures, but that isn't stopping restaurant goers in downtown Palm Springs from enjoying a bite on the newly closed Palm Canyon.
I think it's a positive thing. I think that it adds more seating, more business for the businesses, and I think it slows down traffic too.
Approved restaurants expanded into one lane of traffic, and businesses say they're thankful for the extra room.
Lulu created this garden festive atmosphere, which again is very safe, socially distanced, and really almost allows us to double our business.
Overall, I think it's a good idea. I think it'll bring more people walking around downtown. There's some concern about people coming down only to go to the restaurants, but I think once they're down here, they're finished eating, they'll come in.
As visitors stopped in throughout the evening, some stores expressed concerns about parking over a potentially busy weekend. But restaurant staff says there are several options available.
There's a parking structure behind Lulu. We have our own valet parking in the evenings. And, there's plenty of adjacent street side parking.
And businesses hope the heat doesn't turn too many visitors away.
It's going to be hot during the day. At night, it cools down. We'll have misters, fans. We'll keep it cool. And the people love being here anyway.
The closure has been approved through December, and then at that time, city officials will decide whether to extend it or not. Troopers arrested the driver of a suspected stolen vehicle in Downey. Officials stopped the car with a pit maneuver, spinning it around, and the driver ends up getting out with his hands up, but he takes off running, jumping over a barrier and knocking things onto the ground in what looks like an attempt to evade capture. He turns onto a street with one officer right on his tail. Another comes running towards him. He ends up being cut off, tackled, apprehended, and then arrested. Demonstrators gathered in front of a Los Angeles sheriff's station Saturday afternoon. The group was protesting a deputy-involved shooting that left 29-year-old Dijon Kizee dead. Officials say deputies from the South Los Angeles station were on a patrol in a neighborhood on Monday when they tried to stop Kizee for a code violation. They say Kizee punched a deputy in the face, then dropped a jacket and a handgun on the ground. The shooting prompted demonstrations and activists demanding the deputies be arrested and prosecuted. The deputies involved are reportedly not wearing body cams. Looking for a white suspect in Arizona. In security footage, you can see the officer walk to an outside exit with his gun drawn. It then shows a black man walking out of the exit, a man officials say is a hotel employee. The officer held the man at gunpoint until he could prove his employment. In total, that took about 2 minutes. The armed suspect from the call wasn't ever located. Officials say this incident remains under investigation and that officer is on an administrative role now. This Labor Day weekend, health officials are warning Americans not to let COVID-19 precautions take a holiday. President Trump says the U.S. is rounding the corner on the pandemic, but now 27 states are still seeing a rise in cases. NBC's Jennifer Johnson has more.
From hundreds of thousands expected at the South Dakota State Fair to beachgoers marking the official end of summer, Americans are celebrating this Labor Day holiday weekend. Health officials are fearing another spike in COVID-19 cases, similar to what happened after Memorial Day and the 4th of July holidays, as they see Americans growing weary of the virus.
People's willingness to comply with the simple things that we know can reduce spread is going to start to fray as we head into the fall and the winter.
America's COVID-19 death toll is approaching 190,000 people. President Trump says a vaccine could be out by the end of the year, if not sooner, but his Democrat opponents aren't buying it.
I think that we have learned since this pandemic started, but really before that, that there's very little that we can trust that comes out of Donald Trump's mouth.
The president facing backlash over the pandemic and reports he denigrated American troops who died in war, calling them suckers and losers. White House officials Sunday defended the president.
This president supports the military in an unbelievable way. He's created more funding to rebuild the military.
On Twitter, the president also fired back, saying the Democrats, together with the corrupt fake news media, have launched a massive disinformation campaign. Other media outlets have confirmed the allegations, including Fox News. The president has called for the firing of the Fox News reporter. Jennifer Johnson, NBC News, Washington.
Passengers aboard a military chartered flight over Hawaii had quite a frightening night. You can see that video there. There are reports of flames coming from the engine and some loud noises. The Atlas Air flight was carrying more than 200 people. Officials say the aircraft experienced engine failure. The plane was able to return to the airport with just one engine. Thankfully, no injuries were reported. We have a live look now from our Agua Caliente casino cam, and it's pretty hot out there. Mike's got to look at your full forecast when we return. Let's take a live look now from our Walter Clark Highway 111 cam. A nice night to jump into the pool if you're able to. We'll send it over to NBC Palm Springs Chief Meteorologist Mike Everett with a full look at your forecast.
Well, we've pretty much described this ridge of high pressure as much as we can. It's huge, it's broad, it's heating up the entire west coast. But as I mentioned earlier, changes are coming. So here's what we're looking at as we go towards Tuesday. We're going to be seeing that frontal boundary that I was telling you about earlier, making a deep dive down into the midsection of the country. And we will be beneficiaries of that. We'll get temperatures back down below 110. It's a start. We will see those winds starting to pick up from the northeast, though. And you and I both know that that is a Santa Ana wind. Those winds come off the Mojave. They are very dry, and so that does raise fire potential. Looks like Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, but it is a small price to pay for what will be noticeably cooler temperatures. So everything you're seeing here will be breezy in the light blue, but it will be gusty out towards Joshua Tree and 29 Palms. We're talking about 30, possibly 40 miles an hour, including some of our mountain passes, including the San Gorgonio and possibly even the Banning Pass. That's going to lower humidity back down to that 5% range and take what's already a dangerous fire situation and keep that in play as we go into the early part of next week. Taking a look at Labor Day, we start off in the low 90s. Dew points will ride in the upper 40s and lower 50s. It starts off warm and once again gets hot very quickly, expecting to peak at 120 in many communities in the Coachella Valley. It will still be dangerously hot up towards Joshua Tree, 110 in Cabazon, 102 in Anza after a record-breaking weekend up in the mountains there, and 88 will be your high up in Big Bear. Comfort Air 7-day forecast shows relief on the way. In fact, we're going to shave 10 degrees off between Tuesday and Wednesday. Take a trip delightfully below average for a couple days there, get those overnights back in the 70s, and regulate our way into the middle of September.
Welcome back. Let's take a look at those NBC Palm Springs sports headlines. Memphis Grizzlies guard Ja Morant wins the NBA's Rookie of the Year award. Morant walked away with 99 out of a possible 100 first-place votes, beating Zion Williamson. During this NBA season, Morant led all qualifying rookies in points with 17.8 and assists at 7.3 a game. He shot 47.7% from the field. He becomes the second player in Grizzlies history to win the Rookie of the Year award, joining Pau Gasol in 2002. Los Angeles Angels outfielder Mike Trout made Major League history Saturday night versus the Houston Astros. Trout etched his name in Angels history with this blast to center field. That's his 300th career homer. The home run sets a new franchise record previously held by Angels great Tim Salmon. Trout became the 16th player in Major League history to reach 300 home runs before the age of 30. The 29-year-old set another Major League record in playing in the fewest career games to reach 300 home runs, as well as 200 stolen bases. Round 3 of the 2020 Tour Championship took place at East Lake Golf Club in Atlanta. Dustin Johnson starts the day at the top of the leaderboard, but has plenty of competition, including Jon Rahm and Rory McIlroy. The putt of the day, though, that goes to Mackenzie Hughes. He drains it from 52 feet on the par 3 15th. You can see it rolling in there. Xander Schauffele also finished strong with this birdie putt. He drops to 14 under and shot a 66 on the day. But Dustin Johnson remains the leader at 19 under. He'll start the final round with a 5-stroke lead. There was no love out on the court for Novak Djokovic this afternoon. After losing a game, Djokovic hit a ball behind him. That ball struck a female judge who immediately fell to her knees and grabbed her throat. Djokovic reacted immediately and went to tend to the lineswoman. Following several minutes of discussion with officials on the court, he was defaulted, which means he was disqualified from the tournament. According to United States Tennis Association, the action falls under the category of ball abuse. The woman was helped off the court as she struggled to regain her breath. Hall of Fame outfielder Lou Brock has passed away. Before tonight's game between the Cubs and Cardinals, the first ballot Hall of Famer was remembered with a moment of silence. Best known as a Cardinal, Brock played 19 seasons in both St. Louis and in Chicago with the Cubs. When he retired in 1979, Brock was Major League Baseball's all-time stolen base leader with 938. He collected over 3,000 hits in his career and was elected to the National Baseball Hall of Fame in '85. Lou Brock was 81 years old. That does it for sports tonight. We'll be right back. We're taking another live look from our Agua Caliente casino cam. You can still see the orange, the red, those flames out there in the hillside. And today we set several new records across the valley and in Southern California. It was 120 degrees in Palm Springs. That shattered the 1986 record on this date of 114. It was 117 in Thermal. That broke the 2008 record of 115. Indio tied its 2008 record of 116. It hit 104 degrees in Idlewild, extremely hot for people living up in the mountains, most without air conditioning. 87 in Big Bear, 110 in Fullerton, 105 in Santa Ana, another amazing 102 in Oceanside, 100 in San Diego. No place to cool off here in Southern California. We'll check in with NBC Palm Springs Chief Meteorologist Mike Everett for a look at your AccuWeather forecast.
Well, this Labor Day weekend has been laborious indeed, with record-shattering heat all the way across Southern California, including here in the Coachella Valley. There's some good news. We are halfway through. It's going to be hot again on Labor Day, but then tracking some more meaningful changes. Looks like we're going to be in record territory again on Monday. Worse before it gets better. So yeah, warm again on Monday. Okay, we can call that hot when you're back in the 120 range, but we're tracking some big changes as we go towards the middle of next week. They're going to take those temperatures down and help to regulate us. In the short term, though, we've got excessive heat warnings for literally everyone in Southern California, even out towards the coast as well. Those should be allowed to expire this evening for the folks along the coast. We will stay under that excessive heat warning for one more night. Monday at 8 p.m. is when we're expecting that to be allowed to expire here locally. Here's what we're tracking as we go towards Monday. That ridge of high pressure almost perfectly on top of us. That is helping with the firefighting effort. In fact, when you've got it right on top of you, that makes the winds are relatively still. As this moves away from us, though, we will track some winds that will pick up. In fact, could be tracking a mild Santa Ana wind event that's going to dry things out even more, but it's going to fix those numbers and take us out of the 110s and low 120s. Next 3 days brought to you by Comfort Air helps tell that story. 120 on Labor Day becomes 112 on Tuesday, and Wednesday, delightfully below average in those overnights back in the 70s. I'll tell you the whole story coming up.
In consumer news, nearly 3/4 of American adults say they'll do at least some work over this Labor Day weekend. Workers are looking to go remote, with searches for rural destinations up 91% over last year. But modern conveniences like high-speed internet are, of course, a requirement. It appears that summer vacations weren't all the rage this year, of course, with safety concerns and economic challenges from the coronavirus pandemic. Nearly 3/4 of Americans didn't travel. 44% of those surveyed didn't use any of their paid time off over the summer. And when asked why, they said they were concerned about furloughs or layoffs. They also felt guilty asking for time off since they were already working from home. Taco Bell is changing up its menu. They're removing several dishes to make room for new ones. Taco Bell's getting rid of several shredded chicken meals, but more importantly, it's getting rid of the beloved Mexican pizza. This changes take place in November. We're wondering if you can freeze the Mexican pizzas, asking for a friend. Time to stop and get those now. And there's a harsh reality for musical artists emerging during this pandemic, with no place to perform in front of all of those potential fans. CNN's Vanessa Yurkovich reports on the crisis facing America's music venues.
Would you be where you are today without independent music venues?
Impossible. There's no way. There's absolutely no way.
James Murphy, the lead singer of the Grammy-winning band LCD Sound System, says he owes his career to the decades he spent perfecting his craft in small, independently run music venues.
This is a kind of like natural ecosystem that you can't rebuild. It's like a coral reef of venues. It's like a national asset that if it goes away, it doesn't come back.
He was scheduled to play here at Knockdown Center in Queens, New York in April, a gig that's been postponed indefinitely.
It's really rough. It's like, there is no timeline on when we could reopen. We were the first to close. Our industry will be the last to reopen.
Which is why Knockdown and nearly 3,000 other independent music venues banded together to form the National Independent Venue Association, or NIVA. The group, along with 600 other artists from Lady Gaga to Billy Joel, are calling on Congress to take action.
But we're about to lose all of the Carnegie Halls for independent small music all at once.
NIVA has endorsed the Save Our Stages Act, a bipartisan bill which would provide a 6-month grant to independent venues. In Atlanta,
this is where young artists grow up. This is where the local talent hones their skills.
Josh Antonucci runs Center Stage. He says he received a PPP loan, which has helped him stay afloat until now. But with live events indefinitely on hold, he has no other source of revenue.
There is no sustainable pivot for businesses like ours. You can't do live music to go.
NIVA estimates that independent music venues generate hundreds of thousands of related jobs. And 90% of venues say without federal assistance, they won't last 6 months.
If we don't have capital investors, if we don't have a stock market supported business, how will we possibly continue to pay the bills?
Toby Parks just opened her music venue, XBK, in Des Moines, Iowa, before the pandemic shut her down.
It's not just hurting us and our venues, it's hurting all the small businesses. It's hurting the pizza place that's next door to me, the coffee shop that's next door to me. It's hurting the community as a whole.
It was a dream years in the making, but she's now looking at closing for good in just months. And as a minority-led business owner, the prospect is heartbreaking.
That's why I'm fighting so hard, particularly for people like me who are a Black queer woman. And so it's incredibly important to be able to maintain it and to continue on for the next generation of people to take my place.
We'll be right back with your world headlines. Stay with us. Climate activists gathered in the Swiss Alps to protest and mourn receding glaciers. A black and white photograph shot in 1891 dramatically illustrates the shrinking of Switzerland's Triac Glacier. More than 200 activists walked the foot of the glacier on one of Europe's tallest mountain ranges. This protest came one day before the Swiss parliament began debating new legislation on reducing CO2 emissions. The government says 90% of the remaining 1,500 Swiss glaciers will vanish by the end of the century if nothing is done to cut emissions. More than 1,000 people turned out to a protest in Rome against Italy's coronavirus protection measures. People carrying Trump campaign banners were among those attending the protest. Many in the crowd were objecting to rules enforcing the wearing of face masks. Among their complaints, they consider a mask mandate as infringing on their personal freedom. Italy is one of Europe's worst-hit countries with more than 35,000 coronavirus deaths. A man was killed and 7 people injured in late-night stabbings in a busy nightlife area in the English city of Birmingham. Police said they're searching for a lone suspect in what appeared to be random attacks. Police are still investigating the motive, but said there's absolutely no suggestion at all that this is terror-related. America's Western allies are pointing the finger at the Kremlin for the suspected poisoning of Russia's most popular opposition leader. Alexei Navalny is still hospitalized in Germany. President Trump says the United States must look into very seriously, but says he has seen no proof. Russia denies responsibility and is not even investigating. NBC's Molly Hunter reports.
According to NATO, there has absolutely been proof that Alexei Navalny was poisoned and that he was poisoned with a nerve agent that the Russians have used before. Take a listen to NATO's Secretary General.
There is proof beyond doubt that Mr. Navalny was poisoned by using military nerve grade agent from the Novichok Group.
He called on Russia to provide a full, complete accounting of its Novichok program.
Those responsible for this attack must be held accountable and brought to justice.
Now, we have seen Novichok fairly recently. It's the nerve agent that the Brits accused the Russians of poisoning a former Russian spy, Sergei Skripal, here in the UK just 2 years ago. Now, Sergei Skripal did survive, and at the time, 20 countries expelled Russian diplomats. Now, NATO has said there will be some sort of international response to the Alexei Navalny case. Not yet clear what that will be, but for now, Alexei Navalny is still in a coma and he's still in a hospital in Berlin, Germany. Molly Hunter, NBC News, London.
We've got a live look coming up from our Agua Caliente casino cam, as well as a full forecast from Mike. Stay with us when we return. We'll take a live look now from our Walter Clark Highway 111 cam. Things kind of slowing down on our Sunday evening. We'll send it over to NBC Palm Springs Chief Meteorologist Mike Everett with a look at your full forecast.
Well, we've pretty much described this ridge of high pressure as much as we can. It's huge, it's broad, it's heating up the entire West Coast. But as I mentioned earlier, changes are coming. So here's what we're looking at as we go towards Tuesday. We're going to be seeing that frontal boundary that I was telling you about earlier, making a deep dive down into the midsection of the country. And we will be beneficiaries of that. Look at it. We'll get temperatures back down below 110. It's a start. We will see those winds starting to pick up from the northeast, though. And you and I both know that that is a Santa Ana wind. Those winds come off the Mojave. They are very dry, and so that does raise fire potential. Looks like Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, but it is a small price to pay for what will be noticeably cooler temperatures. So everything you're seeing here will be breezy in the light blue, but it will be gusty out towards Joshua Tree and 29 Palms. We're talking about 30, possibly 40 miles an hour, including some of our mountain passes, including the San Gorgonio and possibly even the Banning Pass. That's going to lower humidity back down to that 5% range and take what's already a dangerous fire situation and keep that in play as we go into the early part of next week. Taking a look at Labor Day, we start off in the low 90s. Dew points will ride in the upper 40s and lower 50s. It starts off warm and once again gets hot very quickly, expecting to peak at 120 in many communities in the Coachella Valley. It will still be dangerously hot up towards Joshua Tree, 110 in Cabazon, 102 in Anza after a record-breaking weekend up in the mountains there, and 88 will be your high up in Big Bear. Comfort Air 7-day forecast shows relief on the way. In fact, we're going to shave 10 degrees off between Tuesday and Wednesday. Take a trip delightfully below average for a couple days there, get those overnights back in the 70s, and regulate our way into the middle of September.
In tonight's Showbiz Report, Christopher Nolan's Tenet and Disney's Mulan are two of the most anticipated movies of the year. But you may have a hard time watching one of those films. Our Manny, the movie guy, explains why.
Hello, movie buffs. If you're like me, I've been wanting to see Christopher Nolan's Tenet. The guy who gave us The Dark Knight, Inception, Memento, and Dunkirk, among others, is a great visual storyteller, and he also believes in the power of watching movies in cinemas. I do too, but not during the pandemic. The Oscar-nominated writer-director was adamant to screen Tenet in movie theaters. Only a few cinemas are open in the US and in California as of this writing. A small number of San Diego AMC and Regal theaters will open for Labor Day weekend. So, it breaks my heart not to see the film in time for this review, since Warner Brothers and Nolan refused to screen Tenet for critics digitally. But I believe in safety first. That's why I applaud Disney for choosing to stream Mulan on Disney+. Yes, it comes with a hefty $29.99 price tag, but it's all worth it, and here's why. First, the price you're paying is not a one-time rental. You will have access to Mulan as long as you have Disney+. That's pretty cool, considering you may want to do repeat viewings. Second, this Mulan is simply empowering. No talking animals or annoyingly overproduced musical numbers. Just an affecting story of a girl who becomes a soldier, who becomes a leader, who becomes a legend. Pretty strong for a would-be Disney princess.
Loyal, brave, and true.
Based on the 1998 movie and the folk song The Ballad of Mulan by Guo Maoqian, Liu Yifei embodies our heroine. She's tough and defiant, but loves her family and country. And if you're looking for Christina Aguilera's hit song Reflection from the original animated film, you will find it in instrumental form strewn throughout, serving as a plot device. Director Nikki Caro, who gave us the Oscar-nominated Whale Rider, takes advantage of her magnificent setting. The cinematography and production design are top-notch, so when the pandemic is over, try to see Mulan on the big screen. But for now, be loyal, brave, and true, and stay at home and stream the film.
I will bring honor to us all.
And for that, Mulan gets 3.5 out of 4. The girl who saved the dynasty kisses. I'm Manny the movie guy.
As we head to break, here's a time lapse from our Agua Caliente casino camera in Rancho Mirage. This is looking northwest in the direction of the El Dorado fire. Earlier today, there were more clouds in the sky than smoke. But if you take a live look now from that same cam, you can see in the shadows that smoke, the flames, all kicking back up again. We'll have an update in 2 minutes. You're watching NBC Palm Springs. Welcome back. We have a live look from our Agua Caliente casino cam in Rancho Mirage. You can see the fire there, the El Dorado fire, glowing in the mountains to our west. That's where it's burned since yesterday. More than 7,000 acres so far, and we've just learned the cause. A device that generates smoke in a gender reveal party. That is the cause of the El Dorado fire from a gender reveal party. This all is near Yucaipa, 5% contained at this point. It did break out at 10 o'clock on Saturday and exploded from just a couple of acres to more than 1,000 within a few hours. At 11 o'clock last night, the fire had burned 2,700 acres. So it's now more than tripled in size just in the last 24 hours. Firefighters had some help from the weather. Winds have been relatively calm, although we have had another day of record temperatures. But evacuation orders are in place. Communities that had to be evacuated yesterday include Forest Falls, Forest Home, and Oak Glen. Those evacuation orders are still in place. There's a new evacuation order for people in parts of Yucaipa, north of Yucaipa Boulevard, and east of Bryant Street. It's a tough time for people who are being forced from their homes.
Mandatory evacuation, please. First thing this morning, it was up on the ridge, much higher up, but it seems to have exploded. It's come a lot further down, and the wind has changed direction totally.
My son-in-law they've got all their pictures in important papers, and the boys are getting the things that are important to them. And, they're animals. So that's about it.
Fire officials have asked people to not pull over to the side, to stop and take pictures, because it does create havoc for people who are trying to evacuate. Moving from south to central California, the Creek Fire has exploded in size, burning 45,500 acres and still 0% contained. 2 counties have evacuation orders. The Air National Guard sent in helicopters to rescue more than 200 people trapped at the Mammoth Pool campground. One of the reasons we're seeing all of these fires because of California's record-breaking heat wave. Long-standing high-temperature records are being shattered across the state this weekend. Excessive heat warnings are in effect throughout Southern California. Those will stay in effect through Monday. That does it for us tonight. We'll see you again at 11 o'clock. Actually, we have a few seconds left before we go tonight. We want to remind you, connect with us on social media, of course, to get the latest on these record-breaking temperatures, the El Dorado fire. Important to stay up to date what's happening locally in our area. We'll see you again at 11 o'clock. Thanks for watching.